any contingency situation in looking around? I mean,
well, as we looked
why
around,
did they stop at that particular
as
location?
we looked around, we went out into the field and we found that there was a large hole that had been put in the ground, and that was going to be where they were. He told us. We didn't have to look around. He told us that their job was, they were briefed that they were to kill us. And they were to drop us in a hole, and they showed us, you know, this one showed us where the hole was. We actually used that as a command post area to call in the other aircraft for support, move the pickup zone from where it was to this new pickup zone. We spent some time through the day and into the evening waiting to be picked up. It was quite comprehensive what we had to go through just to communicate out of the country and get an aircraft to come into a place that we weren't. You know, we contacted Moonbeam, which was our airborne command post in the area of operations on HF frequencies, high frequencies, and tried to get them to come in, and you know, the pilot said, well, you can't be there because we aren't there, you know, in Cambodia. And that has only recently, I guess in the past, what, 10 years or so, come out that, yeah, we really were in there. We really were operating in Cambodia. We really were operating in Laos. And these were classified arenas. So
did you have an alternative plan in case something went wrong, that you would be picked up at a certain location there then?
The plan that we had, My Way had thought early on, you know, things just, he'd been through a lot of these missions as a team commander. He and Pop had decided, well, things really don't seem as they are here. There's something wrong. And I guess anytime they knew that anytime you were working with suits, you better cover your tail, because they're not going to look out for your best interest. You have to look out for your own best interest. So they did leave contingency plans back at the base with trusted persons to try and pick us up, one of them being a friend of mine who was a chopper pilot, another being a command post non-commissioned officer in charge of the command post. So, you know, contingency plans were there. However, you had to get messages to them to get those contingency plans in place, and that's what we were trying to do.
Now, did you expect the airplanes to come in and pick you up at that point?
Yeah, after we talked to them, we finally got clearance for them to come in. One aircraft even came in and circled the LZ ahead of time, making sure the area was clear for the chopper to come in. Then the chopper came in, but from what I was briefed by Mr. Colby, as the chopper was coming in, the colonel who was involved with the operation from Task Force Alpha had caught on that we had a contingency and we were being extracted out of the area. He didn't want it to happen. He was promised a star if we didn't come back.
Now, you're telling me you had your own contingency without the colonel knowing about it, and he found out about it?
You bet. He found out about it.
You are clever, aren't you?
Not me. My Way and Pop, Ted.
My Way and Pop.
My Way and Pop. They were wonderful teachers.
They could see ahead.
And Pop has severe brain damage today from that.
You still alive?
Still alive, yes.
And so Chip, you have this one location you're supposed to be picked up. Were you smart enough not to go and wait there?
The original location or
the original?
No, we never went there.
Okay.
There's no
You
way.
went to the new one.
After that aircraft came in, when the chopper was inbound to us, we had decided that, well, here comes our aircraft, but they were contacted over radio. It was a rescue aircraft, a King aircraft coming in. They were contacted that there were actually sappers had taken over Team Red Rocket. Remember, we were dressed as sappers. We didn't have any U.S. uniforms. If we had been caught in country, we'd been prosecuted as spies because that's against all international law. So here we were, dressed in sappers in a foreign country, talking to these aircraft. I was controlling them down. As a combat controller, that's my job, bringing them into the LZ because it was a very small area. Bringing them in, knowing that we're going to leave. I mean, my heart was pumping. The adrenaline was flowing. I was tired. I was hungry. But man, we're getting out of here. And all of a sudden, the door guns on the Jolly let loose. I was when I was debriefed by Bill Colby. He said the colonel had called them and said that Team Red Rock had been overcome. It's actually sappers, and protect yourselves. And they saw sappers. Remember, this is the man who runs the intelligence entity for Southeast Asia telling him this. So they fired.
And how many did you lose there?
2.
And what, I mean, they didn't come in and clean, so you're down to 11 now.
Down to 11. They actually had called in. We lost 2 men, and but we had to return fire on the aircraft, shooting out the rear of the aircraft rather than shooting at the pilots because we didn't want to hurt our own guys. You know,
Did the plane go down?
No, no. We shot. Look, from the smoke and everything, it looked like maybe some hydraulics were shot out on it or something. We weren't sure. At any rate, they left the area, but they called in some air support to drop on that LZ.
Bombs?
Drop napalms on it. So we got out of the area quick, and as we were exiting, the sky lit up in the LZ.
But until you got out, you'd lost 2 men. Then you had to leave them behind.
Had to leave them behind, using the slap packs so that they'd never be identified.
Right. Okay. So there's 11 out. What did you decide to do then?
Well, we decided we would be best to try to make it across country ourselves. Trust no one. And that's the way these guys operated. You know, we had some of the best on that team. I was just a kid. I was a victim of circumstances in there, and I mean, I had never engaged the enemy before I had gotten on Team Red Rock. But I engaged the enemy almost hourly after I was with Team Red Rock. We traversed across the country going toward South Vietnam, toward the Cambodia-Vietnamese border.
You're still in Cambodia.
Still in Cambodia, trying to make it to the border. And you have to understand, Cambodia was a refuge for the North Vietnamese. They could come into South Vietnam, they could attack, and then they could pull back across that border. And we weren't allowed to come across that border into Cambodia to attack them, to take them out. So they could resupply, they could rest, recuperate, R&R, whatever, and then come back in. It was a very difficult position.
And that's why Nixon wanted to deneutralize them, right?
Sure.
So you could go after them in Cambodia.
Well,
and maybe the Cambodian
so
countries,
would,
yeah,
sure.
could go after them too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how many kilometers or how many miles did you have to go to get to the border?
Well, we didn't have maps. We had no idea. We know that, well, it was from Phnom Penh all the way to the border. That's 200 miles. It took. We were out for weeks, trying to work our way through the jungles. We'd come across some teams, routine patrols, and we'd either evade them or we'd engage them. One of the two.
No, how about eating? How about food?
Food was pretty easy to get. You know, as a survival, we'd come across villages too, and we get food from the villages. But
you must have shocked the heck out of the villagers then, huh?
No, we were still dressed as sappers.
I see, yeah. But I mean, you know, you're a white man, right?
Well, you know, we were
Did you have
thin.
slanted eyes?
We were thin, and we did have team members who, the one called the Kid was CIA, and he was Vietnamese. So, you know, it wasn't that we didn't go into the villages ourselves. We'd stay back in the shadows of the forest area, and the Kid would go in and talk to him and get the food. And so, you know, it wasn't.
Did he survive, the Kid?
No, the Kid did not survive.
Okay, but okay, so you made your way across some maybe 200 miles, and how close were you?
Within 4 miles of the border.
Oh, you're kidding.
And then we saw some F-4s circling the area. Looked like they were trying to get into an area, but there was a AAA artillery site, anti-aircraft artillery, firing on the F-4s, and you know we still had some munitions left that we could take them out with, some C4 packs. So we decided, hey, you know, we'll just take this out, and that was probably our greatest mistake. We didn't realize that we were in the middle of almost a battalion-size contingency of North Vietnamese.
Battalion size being how many troops?
I have no idea. I know that as we counted troops and as we passed encampments, easily over 2,000.
And here's 11 men trying to survive 4 miles from the border, and you decided to take this anti-aircraft.
Blew it to hell and back, too.
I guess you did. But that was a mistake, because that brought a lot of undue and unnecessary pressure on you. And obviously they started looking around for, hey, where'd this come from, right?
Yeah, and as we'd walk across paddies, the patrols would be coming one way, and, you know, we dressed as sappers, you know, didn't have U.S. munitions with us. All of our munitions were Chinese AKs and so forth. So we would be traversing one side of the paddy while this other team would come across, and Kid would be there and salute them, you know, and hail them, and we'd just keep walking, you know. But however, one time we came right up to the forest area, and we came face to face, and here's this kind of face looking directly into a North Vietnamese lieutenant, and we were in trouble.
Obviously. Did you go into combat then, or did you try to?
Went right into combat then.
Oops, let me see, where's that AK whatever, huh?
No, they didn't have enough bullets in those for me. My way used to tell me, you know, I was a white knuckle firer because I'd hold that trigger down and melt that barrel. The clips just weren't big enough for me.
So you had hand-to-hand at that point?
I had hand-to-hand. I'd melted barrels. We actually ran out of ammunition. We had to overtake other patrols to restock ourselves. I mean, these guys were good. They were the best, Ted. They were true American heroes, doing their job as best they could.
Don't you think there's someday, Chip, that we can honor these men, but there's no way of knowing their last names, is there?
Well, you know, Pop knows a couple of them, and I think that someday he may be willing to do that. He does have severe neurological problems. He's able to talk. He knows me. He remembers what went on, but it's affected his motor movements, and he's not willing to do anything he thinks that will endanger his family.
Can't blame him for that.
Not at all, no.
And he's still alive, and where is he? What state is he in?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. Good old Okie, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens? You were captured?
We were captured. We spent 92 days in captivity, being moved from point to point in camps. We were actually interrogated by Chinese and Soviet officers. It was never Vietnamese officers. The Vietnamese were there, Vietnamese soldiers in the encampments, because it was theirs, but the actual linguists and interrogators and those who performed the torture were Chinese and Soviet.
How many do you have there now in your team?
I believe 10, maybe 9 ended up in captivity.
So you lost 2 along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And where did they incarcerate you?
They started moving us in the jungles along the border area, not knowing that we were only 4 kilometers from the border. We just know we were being moved. We were incarcerated in one small encampment, then we were moved to a larger encampment, and this had been used in the past, you could tell, because they had cages set up in a semicircular area, and they had 3 posts set up, and they took 2 of us immediately. They stripped us of our clothing, broke this foot, my right foot, so that we couldn't try to escape. You know.
They break everybody's foot?
Broke everyone's. Well, they didn't break. One of the guys was already unconscious, and they didn't break his foot, but they broke all of our feet, 1 foot anyhow. Stripped us of our clothing and put us in these cages. Two of our guys they put on the posts, and we thought that they would be tortured right away, but they weren't. They put them on those posts so that we could watch them as they suffered up there. They weren't given food. They weren't given water. The rest of us were given some water and some food on occasion.
And when you say put them on the post, they tied them to a post out there where you could see them from your cages.
Mm-hmm.
And did